Now, the second time around with Austin, it was even more severe. I had extra fluid around my heart, and I was definitely, my heart was in significant distress. I think a lot of women, especially after having children, I just can't stress enough how much your body changes. I just really one morning decided at the start of a new year, this is going to be my year to get back to me, and I need to invest in myself in probably ways I had never done before.
Welcome to the Common Threads Lehigh Valley podcast. I'm Megan Frank. This is a space for local women to share their stories because everyone has a story to tell, and our stories are what connect us. Today, we're going to be talking about healthier lifestyles and how to lose weight. These are things a lot of us are thinking about with the start of the new year, and we have a guest who will give us some perspective about that. Kelly Chando is the Director of Development at St. Luke's University Health Network. She's also a wife and mom of 2 boys. Kelly had a harrowing experience into motherhood. She has some birth trauma that she talks about with us, and she also shares her weight loss journey. It's a great episode. Kelly is brutally honest about her experiences, and she shares her advice and perspective about how she got through it. If you're watching on YouTube, please click subscribe. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for being on the Common Threads podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
This is so exciting. This is our first episode.
I know. This is great. Again, no pressure at all.
But No, we got this.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it. Where did you grow up, and where do you live in the Valley, and what do you do?
So I'm originally from Syracuse, New York. My husband was born and raised in the Valley, but I primarily grew up here in the area. Absolutely love it. I did go away to school, wanted to come back, and this is where we have 2 young boys, and we want to raise them here. So we have Austin, who's 4, and Kale, who's almost 8, and we just love this community. And professionally, I'm a Director of Development over at St. Luke's University Health Network.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So you're here today to talk about your weight loss journey. That journey actually started with your journey into motherhood, and you had a very harrowing experience into motherhood, having preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure in a mom,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very dangerous and it's very scary. And we're going to talk about that more later in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But first, I want to talk to you about this weight loss journey and how you actually didn't have a big struggle with your weight until after you had kids.
Correct. That's right. I was always an athlete. We were always a very active family. I played field hockey in high school. Even when I went away to college, I thought, I need something new to challenge myself. So I started running half marathons and really found a love for the running. It was just a great opportunity for me to have that time alone and decompress and think through things. And it's great for your body. We all have things throughout our lives. There were different surgeries and procedures I had, and I would always bounce back. But it really wasn't until, my body had significantly changed the physiology, physically, emotionally, mentally, after having both children. And really that kind of is what led me to this journey.
Yeah, having a baby really changes your body, and I know that firsthand. So after I had my daughter, I developed a situation where it's called pelvic organ prolapse, and my organs actually started to drop in my body. They're just sinking down. And so I know exactly what it's like to go through that. And then you're a new mom, so you're focused on that. And maybe your weight is taking, a seat on the back burner. That's not something you're really worried about. But eventually you said to yourself, I want to do something. How did you start to address this unwanted weight?
Yeah, so like I had said, I had never really struggled. So I was eating healthy. I started exercising again, almost to the point where it was probably a little too much. And I knew that, lack of sleep would also help, it would challenge your body and you would probably keep some weight. But with all the things that I was doing correctly and had never really been challenged with it as much before, I started to really focus on it. And then I just became sick and tired of being sick and tired all the time. And I thought, I fought so hard to be here for these two boys. I want to make sure that I have the energy to be with them and to play with them and to enjoy each day with them and my husband. And so I just really one morning decided at the start of a new year, this is going to be my year to get back to me, and I need to invest in myself in probably ways I had never done before to feel like me again. And not the old me, but a different version of me, a better version of me.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Did you start with just like a Google search of like, how do you lose weight after you have a baby? Or did you have some ideas or friends that helped guide you?
Yeah, I, again, had said that I love this community so much. And I've been lucky enough to have a great core group of girlfriends for most of my life that still live around the area. And we talk about all of the good, the bad, the ugly. And one of them in particular started going to this newer gym in the area. And I thought, I can't make excuses anymore for being tired and taking care of kids. This is a gift and a blessing that I have. So I started going to this gym, and if that still continues to mean that I have to set my alarm for 3:50 a.m. to get to class that starts at 4:45 a.m., absolutely, I have to do it. It's such a love-hate relationship, right? I am never going to be a morning person. I hate when that alarm goes off, but there is nothing that makes me feel better than when I leave that gym in the morning and get to the shower at 6 o'clock and can take on my day, and then I can focus on the kids and I can focus on work. And what was great is I started going there, and the owner of the gym, Allie, she's fantastic. She's probably somebody you should have on here next. She has a really incredible life journey, and she is just amazing and always constantly learning, and all to support women. And she shared with me that for 20 plus years, she's been a nutritionist. She's also a registered nurse. Interestingly enough, she used to work for St. Luke's many years ago as well, in delivery. And so she knows quite a bit about how even pregnancy specifically can change somebody's body. And she took the time to sit with me and say, if you really want to invest in yourself, here's what we need to do. I need you to schedule an appointment with one of your physicians in weight management. I need you to ask for X, Y, and Z tests. And we're going to look at this holistically. And then she said, you and I can work together too. And I need you to start taking more protein. You're not nearly getting enough protein as you should. And that's something I would never know that. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And as women, as we start to age, we need to be really more focused on muscle mass. We need to be taking in so much protein. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was actually packing on some weight, because I wasn't fueling my body with the right things that my body needed at that time.
And also you're working full time and you're raising a kid, two kids. And I feel that like, I don't even know how much good calories I took in a day, let alone a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she has me track it. I've been tracking my macros every single day for over 100 weeks, all to focus on carbs, fat, protein, making sure that I am fueling my body to, again, not only feel good for myself, but to be able to run around with my kids. So that was really the first step.
So you start working with her. She's essentially a nutritionist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of gives you this roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do any other steps?
Absolutely. So I listened to her, and aside from, tracking all of that and going to the gym routinely, making sure I'm getting my steps in, all the things we all have to add to our to-do list,
Sure.
but for the better. And I got in with our weight management team through St. Luke's, and this physician in particular was absolutely amazing. It was very emotional for me because I finally felt like I had somebody that really truly was listening and wanted to find a solution for me. I know we all have so many challenges in our lives, but I'm a firm believer in there can always be a solution. So let's find out what the problem is and then create a plan and focus on that plan. And she did exactly that. I just explained to her, here's the type of person I was. This is my lifestyle. Here's why this matters so much to me. It's not about, vanity. It's about how I feel and how I need my kids to to feel when I'm with them. And she, handed me the tissue box and we got down to the nitty gritty. And she, again, spent well over an hour with me just to understand my entire journey and to make sure that she was writing up the right labs for me to get so that she could see everything. And she's the one that actually found through my preeclampsia twice over, I had developed a substrate of insulin resistance. And so my body truly needed other tools at that point in my life to be able to get back to a healthy weight and to feel good and energized.
That's got to feel so validating, because it sounds like the whole time you're like, what the heck? Why can't I lose this weight? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my body? And you finally found a doctor who listened to you and was like, hey, we can try to really figure this out. You don't just have to throw in the towel on this one.
Yeah.
And I love that. I was telling you earlier that to do this podcast, I did contact about a dozen women, and I asked them if Lehigh Valley Public Media were to create a podcast that was focused on women's issues, what would you want us to focus on? And almost all of them said that they feel dismissed by doctors a lot of the times, and they feel like they're not heard, and they feel like they know that something's going on, but they can't pinpoint it. So for you to have found someone who was like, I got you, like, I'm first of all listening to you, and second of all, I'm gonna now try to attach solutions to everything you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's such a great support in me continuing to work with Allie too in my own personal space. And so now when I have appointments, she's asking me, show me the most recent in-body scan that Allie had you do. Show me your Excel doc of the, macros that you've been getting in. Are you still on the same levels? And so they're all working together to make sure that, another woman in the community is feeling supported and lifted.
So another thing that this physician had you or recommended to you was to take the GLP-1s. And so what did you think when you had that conversation? Were you nervous? Were you like, yes, this is it? Were you just going to try to test it and see if it helped?
So that's a great question. I am actually somebody that is always very hesitant to take anything, whether it's Advil or Tylenol or cough medicine. If I can avoid taking something, absolutely. But I also am a firm believer in there are medicines that are created for a reason. Yes. And so what I loved about her approach is it was, here are some things, some tools that we have. Let's talk through them. Are there any of these options that you might have interest in doing? So it wasn't, I recommend this or you should do that. It was, let's have this two-way conversation about it. And she sat through that with me, answered all of my questions thoroughly. And she said to me, you can continue to try to do this without these, but because we've done these labs and because we see this substrate of, insulin resistance, you are still going to be challenged. And for me, knowing that I could drop weight so that then my heart is working more efficiently, like I have to be hyper vigilant about that because it's a result of having preeclampsia.
So you didn't take this lightly then, because you're thinking, how's this going to affect my heart too?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so if losing the weight could help that, then absolutely I'm going to do this. And it was always part of, a set of tools that I would be utilizing. So it's not a magic wand, but, I think right now there's this negative connotation with it. Yes, there's people that utilize it that probably don't need it at all. And yes, it might be for vanity and not so much for the medical piece of things. But there's a lot of people that do truly need it. And I think a lot of women, especially after having children, I just can't stress enough how much your body changes. And I have learned so much throughout this process, which is why I just want women to be their advocate. Speak loudly, repeat yourself if you have to, find other people. If the one in front of you is not listening, there are individuals out there that will listen to you and want to help you and support you, because pregnancy is not a small thing. There's this idea that it's a beautiful experience, and it is for most, but it can also be very traumatizing for others. And you have to sit with that. And then when your body also is feeling a certain way afterwards, all you want to do is enjoy this baby and your family. So having these tools are incredible, but still you have to work out. Still you have to understand the other aspects of your makeup and what's going to work for you. It's not a one size fits all.
And it takes 2 years postpartum, in the postpartum recovery period, for your body to even get back to any semblance of what it was before you got pregnant.
Absolutely.
And people don't talk about that either. I didn't even learn that until after I had my baby.
Same.
And I was like, wait, I won't be back to normal for 2 years?
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about GLP-1s as you started to integrate them into your life.
Yeah.
What was that like? Were there side effects? What's it like to, I guess, take a shot that you're doing? No one else is doing it for you?
Honestly, it's not painful, or I wouldn't be doing it. And I take it once a week. In the I'm on still a very small dose, so it's just enough for my body to be able to respond like it should, just with a little bit of help. And I would say in the very beginning, just because again it's something new that your body is taking in, just like anything else. I would maybe have a dull headache the first day or two. Your stomach is transitioning, so it might be off a little bit for the first couple of weeks, but none of that has really been affecting me for the last year.
Okay, and I've always wondered this. Is this a forever thing? Is this like every year you'll do this, or is it just to get you to a certain point?
Honestly, for me, it will probably be something that I take for most of my life, if not my entire life, because of that insulin resistance.
Yeah.
And the pros outweigh any type of risk that you might hear in passing from individuals. And that's the other thing I want to stress is if you're going to take a medication like that, make sure that you're doing it under, the guidance of a physician.
That's really good advice. So you started to kind of take this full circle approach. You're going to the gym. You've got a nutritionist who's helping guide you. You also have a physician who's guiding you. So you've got this kind of really nice, like checking all my boxes, like doing everything I can. And then you start to lose the weight. And you also train for a marathon. So I've only trained for 5Ks for charities I love. How did you train for a marathon?
First of all, training for anything, including a 5K, is something you should be very proud of.
Oh, thank you.
It is hard work, and it's a commitment that you make to yourself. So when I was making this commitment for this year of transition and getting back to me and a better version of me, I've always loved a good challenge. And so I said, how about a little cherry on top at the end of this year, finally starting to feel like me again. And through this gym and through Allie, I also met another wonderful woman who is so positive and supportive in every way, shape, or form. And she is an ultra runner, so she has done like 60 plus miles at a time. She's done, marathons. And I said, I've always told myself I'm going to at least do one full marathon in my life. And I've realized more recently than ever, I'm not getting any younger. And so with that, let's let this be the year that I also train for a full marathon. And what's interesting is the office where I had this physician where we were talking about the GLP-1s and the insulin resistance. She said, we've never really had a patient that is also actively going to be training for something like a full marathon. So you're kind of our pilot and we're going to look to you. And she was so excited throughout the process. And then I had this coach who I'd met through Allie, and I just said, if I'm going to do this full marathon, I want to do it right. I want to train right. I need you to know that I'm also, tracking macros, and I'm going to the gym early in the morning and all of these things. And she was so supportive, and it was emotional when I crossed that finish line. It was almost a year ago, and it was, my boys were there waiting for me at the finish line, and my husband, who's been so supportive throughout everything. And knew my struggles more than anybody else and was just so happy to see me accomplish that goal, but also everything that came with it throughout the year. And training for a marathon is like another job. You're training for hours at a time each day at certain points, and so he really picked up a lot of the weight throughout the full year, watching the kids, and he's working full time too, and he wasn't going to the gym as much because he knew this was a goal I had to do, and I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to crawl through the finish line. I wanted to run through it and feel strong, and that's exactly what I did, but I didn't do it alone by any means.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you said about your husband kind of backing you up. And with my husband, he would really like to get his black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he decided this right after we had our baby, and I was like, maybe not right this year. Like, let's get through this year of the sleepless nights and everything else, because but I told him I will back him up when she's a little older, and we'll start figuring this out. But it's like you have to help each other with your partner, And that first year, actually, he focused on me. So he signed me up for a yoga membership, and I went to yoga multiple times every week, and it was part of my recovery process and, reconnecting with myself and this new me of being a mother. Yeah. So
it sounds like you got a great guy in your corner.
Yeah.
See, but now I have to get him some out there.
There are, and now I have to get him his black belt. So I have to figure that out. So maybe I could hold the things so he can kick whatever he has to do. Yeah, I'll help him. So we just mentioned about motherhood, and a lot of your story is about entering motherhood. So many of us have birth trauma, myself included, and you had preeclampsia, which is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a pregnant woman. So how did you even accept that diagnosis? Because you must have just been terrified, Kelly.
I was very terrified. So, I've got trauma. Apparently we all have trauma to some degree with something. And it's something I often try to laugh about when I talk about, because I know if I don't, the tears will flow because it brings you right back there. But I knew nothing about it. And actually what's interestingly enough is I had postpartum preeclampsia with both of them. So I had been discharged, and both instances, it was almost exactly 4 days after I had given birth where, I was having debilitating headaches. I was having the pain in the side of my stomach. I had this chronic stabbing pain in my neck. My vision was going blurry. I took my blood pressure and realized it was 188/90. And so I just remember my husband getting me in the car and speeding to the hospital. I don't remember getting there the first time. I essentially had blacked out, and it was a very traumatic experience, I think, also for him, because now we have this newborn that's at home. I should be there. It should be a really enjoyable time for all of us, just the baby snuggles. And, it was just a blur. And that's when we realized what postpartum preeclampsia, or even preeclampsia, is. It is very life-threatening, and they put me on a magnesium drip right away to avoid seizures, because that's typically what will happen. There's organ damage that comes along with it. So actually, every year I always get my liver and kidney function tested as well. Now, the second time around with Austin, it was even more severe. I had extra fluid around my heart, and I was definitely... my heart was in significant distress. There's a hormone called BNP that basically will tell you, how your heart is functioning and what level of distress it is under. And a normal individual's BNP rate is 100. Mine was at 1,500. So I had neuro involved. I had cardiology involved. It was the second time around was also during COVID. So I was by myself. I couldn't have anybody that I knew with me, but I did have some incredible nurses. And I just have to say, those nurses are angels walking on this earth. And I think nurses need to get so much more credit and respect for the work that they do, and even just taking the time to hold your hand, talk through some things, remind you that you're not alone, even though you very much feel like you're alone. So it was very traumatizing, but I learned a lot through that experience. I also learned that having postpartum preeclampsia, I'm 2 to 4 times more likely to develop heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure. So I'm hypervigilant about everything, which is why this weight loss journey was also so important to me, because the less stress that I can put on my heart, it means I can be here as long as possible for my kids.
And how did that affect your emotions? Because with the birth trauma that I experienced, I actually ended up self-diagnosing myself because I had all these crazy symptoms, and I'm sorry, you Google, we all Google, right?
Yeah.
And
Don't do it anymore. It's a downward spiral.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and I had PTSD, and I went to a counselor who specializes in that, and I actually developed post-traumatic stress disorder from having a baby and the experiences that I had. And I think that what's hard about that, I mean, there's a lot of things that are hard about that, but in our culture, people don't know all the different emotional tolls that can happen. So back in like the 90s, supermodel Brooke Shields, fabulous woman.
I remember
She went
this.
on all the talk shows and she talked about postpartum depression. And that's kind of as far as we've gone in the conversation on a national level. And even my own father was saying to me, do you think you have depression? I know about that. I saw that on the Today Show. And I'm like, yeah, but Dad, I'm not sad. I'm scared.
Right.
And the mailman comes, I'm jumping out of my skin.
Yep.
Like, I'm having night terrors, So, and then I came to find out that all these different mental health things can happen if you have a traumatic birth. So you can have postpartum anxiety. You can have postpartum, of course, depression, PTSD. Some people even develop gambling habits or addictive habits. I wouldn't even touch wine for like 6 months because I was like, I don't know if this is a downward slope, for me. Did you have an emotional toll from that?
Oh, absolutely. Mine was more or less the anxiety. You are in this traumatic experience. I was frankly terrified. My husband was terrified. We don't talk about it enough, but I'm so glad that we're doing this, because we do need to talk about these things more. And preeclampsia and postpartum preeclampsia are also still widely unknown as far as reasons why this shows up in women and different types of women. And so, talking about these things is so important to show that there are a lot of people that are affected by this, and we have an opportunity to be able to be part of research, data analytics. So, if anybody's listening and they were traumatized with preeclampsia, register for the preeclampsia registry. You can put your own information in there from your own experience, and you can help another woman at some point or another, because they keep this bank of information, and they're doing lots of research right now. And there are moments of progress, but it's where we have a long way to go in understanding really what this is and what causes it and why. But I definitely was afraid for a very long time. In fact, I shared this story publicly at a Heart Association event a couple months ago, and I brought my son Kale up with me, but I brought one of my best friends up with me as well. Her name is Marcy, and she is the reason why I can be out functioning and talking to people about this. Of course, my husband had to go back to work 5 days in.
Right.
I was terrified. I was almost just always waiting for the other shoe to drop. It was just this game that my mind kept playing on me of, well, you fought through this not once but twice. When's the next big event happening? And anytime I had a headache, I was so concerned it had to do with,
because your
the effects
prefrontal
of
cortex is trying to protect you.
If I felt heart palpitations, I thought, oh my gosh, should I go to the emergency room? So I stayed in my house. And honestly, the first delivery after just having Kale, my husband went back to work. I had not seen the light of day for weeks. And Marcy had continuously called me, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sitting here cuddling with my babe." And she just knew. She knew I was not okay. She showed up at my house without even, saying a word about it. She was like, "You're getting out of the house. We're going to put that baby in the stroller." And I said, "I haven't opened it yet. I don't even know how to open the stroller and put it together." She's like, "We're going to do it together."
Yes.
So she got me up. She got my baby. She put him in the stroller. I now know how to work a stroller. And she got me around the block. It was the first time I took my baby for a walk. I got out of the house. And then she said, "Guess what? I'm going to show up again in a couple days, and we're going to go out to a restaurant, and you're going to bring that baby with you, and we're going to be okay. You're going to be able to get in that car, drive from your house to a restaurant, enjoy life, and you're going to come back home, and you're going to think about what you're going to do the next day." And she is literally the reason why I was able to slowly break out of this just crippling anxiety.
Oh, Kelly, I mean, there are moments where we would, like, the year that my daughter was born, the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And, like, we would be watching these Eagles games leading up to the Super Bowl and then watching the Super Bowl. And I would just, like, break down crying because I felt, in my own house, I felt scared. And, I mean, and it is hard to look at the pictures from those years because you remember how you felt and you might be smiling, and you're happy to have your kid, but you're like, damn, I was not okay. Like, dang, I was not doing okay.
Right.
So, but there is the counselor that I went to, and the reason I agreed to go to her is because she said such wonderful things in our introductory call. And she said, I have my own trauma, Megan, and I want you to know there is life after trauma. And that's what I tell all of my patients. And I needed to hear that so much because you feel so trapped in it. It's like a cage, So if anyone listening has trauma, definitely there is a way out and there is light on the other side. Before you go, Kelly, I wanted to talk to you about how you're now doing advocacy work in the space of preeclampsia and the high blood pressure issue. What are you doing?
So, as I had said just a few moments ago, I'm definitely an advocate for helping other women in some capacity either avoid this or to at least ensure that they know what the signs and symptoms are. Also, just taking blood pressure readings appropriately. Also, don't take a blood pressure reading right after you've done it, a couple seconds prior. You're not going to get a good reading. I want to make sure that women know what appropriate numbers are. I want them to know that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to talk about these things. And so I am very much involved with Preeclampsia Foundation, but I am also a proud board member of the American Heart Association. So I, have the opportunity to be able to, be part of these events and opportunities where we can educate women to the masses and basically hopefully prevent, cardiac emergencies. Women, heart disease is the number one killer still for men and women in the country. And basically, women's symptoms present differently than men, which I think is also why most women will sometimes feel dismissed in certain scenarios. So it's really important that we continue to go around and educate women on what that looks and feels like for them and for their, friends and family members. Also, it's important for people to know how to do CPR, keep people alive, know when something is needed. So just again, like the conversations are what's key. Conversation and connection with people, and that's really how we can continue to support one another and make sure that we all are living healthy, thriving lives and have more time to be here, to be the moms and the wives and the friends that we are.
And I always say things happen for a reason. So you had this amazing, incredible, harrowing journey, and now even at your job at St. Luke's, you're doing work to help people in this space. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's definitely come full circle for me. And, I'm a firm believer in things happen for a reason. And I love what I get to do, probably more so because I've had the experience I've had. and know that I have to be vigilant about my own heart care. So I am in the development space at St. Luke's, and so I have the opportunity to work with a lot of our physicians, but also some donors, and connect them to the opportunities where they can have an impact, not only on their own patient care, but their community members' patient care, their families' patient care. And so most recently, I've had the opportunity to really focus on heart and vascular services for the network. And again, it's just, I'm very passionate about it. I'm so excited every day to learn more about the innovations that we have coming down the line. The expert care that we have in the Lehigh Valley is just incredible. We have almost 60 cardiologists that are just exquisite. They are experts, but they are also very similar to the physician that you and I just talked about at weight management. They all take the time with their patients to listen to them, and that is what we need. I mean, frankly, I'm so proud to be part of St. Luke's, and I could just tell you we have almost 26,000 employees that are all focused on the patient. Every decision is made based on how it will impact our patients now and future patients. And so I'm just excited to be a part of it.
That's awesome, Kelly. I love that you're doing work in this space to help people. This is awesome. 3 of your top weight loss tips.
Ooh. Find what works for you. Ask lots of questions and give yourself grace.
I love it.
It is not going to happen overnight. Nothing does. And it's probably not going to be easy, but anything worthwhile is worth the challenge.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.